Old guidelines said no screen time for kids 2 and under. What has changed?
Well, the American Academy of Pediatrics is looking at their screen time guidelines, which they haven't done in quite a while. And what they found is that really the old guidelines were probably a little too simplistic just because of the fact that the landscape has changed so much. Screens are everywhere, and it's unlikely that parents will be able to keep children away from screens at all times. So really just trying to look at those guidelines and try to determine what works now in today's age where screens are just everywhere.
And what about the 2 and under set specifically?
Well, what the American Academy of Pediatrics is saying is that really children 2 and under still learn best when they have direct communication with an adult. They learn better from real people than from imaginary people, a cartoon character or something like that. The best way for children to learn is that direct communication between a parent, even when a parent isn't necessarily directly focused on the child, but say is engaged in an activity and is still communicating to the child, talking to them. That's the way a child learns things like language. And so that one-on-one, getting down on your hands and knees and being present with your child, playing with your child is still the best way for a child to learn. And that kind of learning doesn't happen through a screen.
Now, Common Sense Media just came out with their media usage report. What does that reveal about teen and tween media usage?
Well, what they're saying is that teens are using more than 9 hours of media a day, and that doesn't include what they may be using in school, for their learning environment. And then for tweens, those ages 8 to 12, they're using about 6 hours of media a day outside of school. So it tells you that the media environment is everywhere. And so what does that look like? Well, TV is still one of the largest medias that is consumed by teens and tweens. Teenagers, especially with their smartphones and tablets, like to listen to music or download videos off of YouTube and watch content in that way. And tweens really are a little bit more engaged in the TV viewing than teenagers. And one of the sort of surprising findings in there was that social media is not used as much as parents might think. Teens may check in there a little bit during the day, but they're really going to be more involved in consuming digital content such as music, TV content, or YouTube videos than they are going to be involved in social media.
And what impact do both of these reports have on parenting today?
Well, what both Common Sense Media and the American Academy of Pediatrics are saying is that the landscape has changed. In essence, children are not doing anything differently than they've done for years. They're just doing it in a different way, and that's with their smartphones, it's with their tablets, and it's still with their televisions, but now we also have smart televisions to throw into the mix as well. So, and children don't consume media content like they used to. It used to be you knew a certain television show was on at 4 o'clock, you'd be in front of the television at 4 o'clock. Now children are much more high-tech. Their families have access to video services such as Netflix and Hulu and those sorts of things, to where you don't have to watch content when it comes on. You can watch it whenever you want. So it makes consumption a little bit different. And it really, for parents, just means you now have to understand you have to parent in that environment. So it's not something that's out on the side. It's the main focus. So parenting in the digital age means getting involved in that digital content and parenting in the digital world.
And what kind of advice could you give to parents that would help them do that?
Well, both the American Academy of Pediatrics and Common Sense Media recommend that parents get engaged and get involved. You can't sit on the sidelines. You don't just hand your child a smartphone or a tablet and say, here you go. Know what apps they're using. Know what apps are age appropriate for them. The same is true for the content that they're viewing or the games that they're playing on these devices. Make sure that you're doing those things with your children, watching the shows that they're watching the videos that they're watching, playing the video games that they're watching, listening to the music that they're listening to. You need to be engaged in all those ways. You need to know what they're doing on their phones. You know, now out in that realm, children are engaging not only with friends that they know from school, they're playing games with them online, but sometimes they meet friends online through those games. And that can be perfectly safe, but parents need to be in there playing the games as well and knowing who their friends are. Just like you wouldn't let your child go to a friend's house where you didn't know the parents and you didn't know a little bit about the child, you want to make sure that your children are playing games in an environment with other children that you deem are appropriate.
What about creating tech-free zones or giving them unplugged time? How important is that?
Well, it's very important. The best way for communication is direct communication one-on-one. Parents and children need that time during the day. The American Academy of Pediatrics really recommends when it comes to dinner time, everybody agree that's going to be a tech-free zone. Set your devices aside and make sure that you're communicating. That way you get to the heart of what happened during your children's day. Also at night, agree that you will have the children plug their devices in a common location. Maybe that's in the kitchen or in the family room, but not in the bedroom. And there's a couple reasons for that. One is you want to make sure that children turn off those screens a half an hour before their bedtime. They need that because otherwise the light can have some effect on keeping them awake for a longer period of time. So no devices a half an hour before bedtime. That helps them wind down and get to sleep better. The other thing is you don't want those devices disturbing your children during the middle of the night. So a child may say, well, hey, I need the phone for my alarm clock. You can buy an alarm clock. They don't really need the phone to do that.
And what kind of resources online are there? Are there any good websites to look at?
But you can look both at the American Academy of Pediatrics website and also Common Sense Media's website, which is commonsense.org. Both of those have information on screen time. And the Common Sense Media website also has a wealth of information, reviews on TV shows and videos, video games, and movies so that parents can make smart decisions about what age-appropriate content is for their children.